Hello from here at the Stadium of Light on a windy afternoon, but one where Hull City have won for the fourth away game out of 5. They've beaten Sunderland by 1-0. Sunderland's first league defeat here at the Stadium of Light. I think they'd won 10 and drawn 6 before today, but once City took the 18th minute lead, you kind of wondered, could it be another one of those days like we saw a couple of weeks ago at Bramall Lane, and so it proved. Sunderland, plenty of possession, plenty of balls in and around the penalty area, but just 2 shots on target in the game, and I don't want to say it was comfortable for City, because for those of us that were watching, and whether you were here watching on telly or following it wherever you are, there would have been elements of nerves throughout. Every time the ball pinged around the penalty area, you'd have been shielding your eyes, because it was, once you got in front, it was kind of like, can we blow the full-time whistle? Not wishing to wish our lives away, but you know, if you could end the season now, we'd all probably take it, wouldn't we? So, look, they were fantastic in terms of their effort, their application, and you can't say they didn't deserve it. If I'm honest, yeah, Sunderland had the moments, but when you look back at what Ivo Pandor had to do in the game, you know, the 2 saves he made were very relegation, fraudulent slip there, regulation saves from the goalkeeper. And yeah, they had a couple of moments where they should have done better, Sunderland. A header and from Isidore, and Mayenda shot wide, but those chances came from City's own profligacy at their own penalty area, trying to play out or making errors, and there were particularly in the second half a raft of daft free kicks they kept giving away in and around the penalty area, and you did think that if Sunderland were going to score, the only way they would score would come from a Tigers error, but that didn't happen. And as I say, Sunderland, I put this to Ruben when I spoke to him on Thursday, that is this the sort of game where, given what happened for Sunderland at Leeds United on Monday, the big build-up for that game, the expense of emotion and energy at Ellen Road to lead for so long, and then the manner of that loss, the way that Leeds scored the winning goal, 4 seconds from the end of added time, I just wondered before the game if that might take a bit out of them. And I'm not. It's crazy to say that Sunderland's season is over. You know, they were before this weekend's games. I think they were 8 points off the top 2, and 15 off 7th. So realistically, unless they have some kind of incredible collapse, they're going to get in the playoffs. So it's quite a strange position for them to be in with 14 games to go. And I just wondered if what happened at Ellen Road and the way it played out, and you know, conceding 2 goals so late, having played so well, it might kind of puncture the balloon a bit. And it did feel it in the stadium. I mean, this was their biggest crowd of the season, over 44,000. I'll come to the City fans in a minute, who were brilliant up in the gods, but there were over 44,000 here today, and it never, at no point did it sound like there was that many people in the stadium. It was quite flat, and pretty much since from the moment City scored after 18 minutes, there was always that frustration, and City played it perfectly. They took a lot of time out of the game. You know, every time there was a set play or a throw-in, goal kick, an injury, they took their time. And look, I'm not going to criticise them. It's what you'd expect any team at any level to do. It's about gamesmanship. It's about making the most of those little moments, and they did it to their advantage. Pandor got booked second half for taking his time over a goal kick. I'd be outraged, if I'm honest, if my goalkeeper away from home when you're winning didn't get booked for time wasting at some point. You've got to be careful, of course, but you know, that's part of the game. And I just thought, to a man, they were brilliant. They defended brilliantly. Carl Joseph was back in the team today. He ran his socks off up front. It was his kind of chasing a lost cause in the first half that got City a corner out of nothing. It was a ball going down the right hand side of the penalty box. It was going out of play. He chased it. Did Carl Joseph chased it? Forced the Sunderland defender into a header behind, and from that corner they scored. Gauhart's delivery was exceptional. It fizzed in. So many times you see corners at this level fail to beat the first man, and you're like, oh god, that's rubbish. But it fizzed in. It confused Patrick Roberts, and in turn the goalkeeper Anthony Patterson. Roberts flicked. It was Patrick Roberts. Sorry, Patrick Roberts flicked it on and flicked it through Patterson and into the back of the net, and that was the first goal. And moments later they had another corner, and Gauhart did the same. And this time, if you were watching on the telly, you'd probably say, stick it under the bar. You know, the goalkeeper's just dropped one, stick it on him, and that's exactly what Gauhart did. And he sort of flapped at it, but managed to get it away. And Gowhart's delivery, Gowhart's performance was you know, again, he's not scored, but his work ethic was fantastic, and he wasn't the only one. I thought Elliot Matazzo was brilliant in midfield. I thought he had quite a shaky start. He was caught in possession a couple of times, and thinking, mate, you don't get that much time on the ball in the Championship. He had his pocket picked on the edge of the City box a couple of times, but he recovered, and he was so dynamic in midfield. He was really good. Alzate alongside him. Crooks was good in the time that he was on. Had an audacious back heel, which was I haven't seen a replay. I just saw it in real time, and I loved it in real time. But it was chalked off for offside, which was unfortunate. They did have chances in the second half. You know, Lincoln came on. We'll come to Louis Barry in just a minute. Lincoln, perhaps surprisingly, came on in the first half away at Sunderland. A big job to do to support you know, Louis Coyle down the right hand side, and he did really well. Sorry, McLaughlin and Coyle on the flanks. He did really well. There was a moment second half where he did well on the left hand side, pulled over a cross, deflected. Patterson turned it away, and that could have been another goal. Alzate again, excellent. Saw a shot plug into the side netting. So, you know, this wasn't by any stretch smash and grab. You know, it wasn't as comfortable as it was in terms of goals away at Sheffield United, but they kept him largely at arm's length. And as I said before, the only way Sunderland were going to score was going to come, you felt, from a mistake, and that never came. And look, it's brilliant, absolutely fantastic result. And sometimes in seasons, whether you're challenging for promotion or whether you're fighting to stay in the division, in the final weeks of the season, you always feel there's a pivotal moment. And perhaps that's today. City have won here. Derby lost in the 95th minute at home to Millwall. John Eustace's first game, his first full week on the training pitch. You know, I think everybody would have expected Derby to get something from that game if they're going to stay up. They've lost. Plymouth and Cardiff battled out a 1-1 draw. So for the first time in what feels like forever, City have now got, I say, breathing space is a bit of a stretch, but they've got a 3-point gap now. They've gone above Cardiff. Obviously, Luton play against Watford in that derby on Sunday at 12 o'clock against Watford. So, you know, Luton could close the gap if they get a result. I'm just seeing that Portsmouth have gone in front against QPR. That would take them, if they were to see that off, that would take them further clear. But it shows you what, I mean, Portsmouth's form. They've won 2 games, and suddenly they were 7 points clear. They win today, they go 10 points clear. It's mad. So, you know, I think City, we've always said that it's in their own hands. Their destiny is in their own hands. It's about what they can do, and you do need help from other teams, because that makes your life a bit easier. But ultimately, they've got to take care of their own business, and coming here and winning is exactly that. Now the challenge, and we'll keep saying it, the challenge, they've got to kick on now, and that is the big thing for them. They couldn't kick on after the Sheffield United game. They obviously lost at home to Stoke, and then went away to Burnley and lost. Now the next 2 games, I don't want to kind of over dramatise it, but the next 2 games could define their season. If they win them both, they're pretty much, I wouldn't say home and hosed, but you'd fancy if they were to win the next 2 games, they've got 1 foot in the Championship next season. For those that don't know, away at Cardiff on Tuesday night, then the following Tuesday, no game of course this time next weekend because Plymouth are in FA Cup action away at Manchester City, but that Plymouth game is next Tuesday, it's a week on Tuesday. So the next 2 games away at Cardiff, at home to Plymouth, you know, the Cardiff game is their game in hand on the teams below them in terms of you know, Luton, Plymouth and Derby. So you can't stress enough, can you, really? The next 2 games, if they win the next 2 games, they've got a foot in this league next season with 12 games, 11 games to go. Not done. No complacency here. You know, you can't take your foot off the gas. Steve, you're absolutely right. Again, this result counts for absolutely nothing if you then go to Cardiff and get turned over and lose. But what I would say is, away from home, 4 wins in 5. You know, that is great form for any team in the Championship. You know, if you were Leeds United, 4 wins in 5, you'd say that's good form, given how difficult it is to win in the Championship period, let alone away from home. So, excuse me, they've got. I don't know what more you can say. It's in their hands. They have to now go and back it up. That's something they've done once all season. Only once this season have they been able to win back-to-back games. Obviously, we all know, because we talk about it. We've got nothing else to talk about in that respect. Way back back in the early autumn when they won at Stoke, they beat Cardiff, and then they went to QPR. They won 3 in a row. They haven't won back-to-back games since. They've had chances at home to Swansea. when they beat them away at Sheffield United, and they couldn't take it. The only way City are going to get out of this problem, as we've said for months now, is by winning football matches. Now they've come here. What they can't be is typical City. They cannot be typical City, go to Cardiff and get beat. Would I take a point? No. I think this team is good enough, as they've shown at Sheffield United, and they've shown here. They've backed it up. We wondered, didn't we, if Sheffield United was a one-off, if it was kind of one of those fluke results you get in the Championship. You know, they've backed it up today, and I think Portsmouth have scored a second, I believe, against QPR. You know, so they've got to go and do it, and that's on them. And maybe, perhaps, the fact the game comes so close to this one is a good thing. You know, maybe the fact that they had, you know, a week or 8 days after the Sheffield United game before playing at home to Stoke, maybe the fact they're away from home helps as well. Look, they're all straws that we can all clutch at, and we can all try and make cases for this, that and the other. None of us really know. The reality of the piece, however, is they have to go down to Cardiff on Tuesday night, and if they can win there, that does set them up brilliantly. You know, that is, we were saying before the game that we felt they needed 6 more wins to make absolutely sure of survival. Before the game, when you're looking at it, 6 wins from 14 games, when they've won, 7 in 32. It's kind of playoff form, but they've chalked one off today. Now, if they can chalk another one off on Tuesday night, then they're going to be in a really good place. You know, they win on, depending on obviously what happens with Luton. But best case scenario is Luton don't beat Watford, City go to Cardiff, and suddenly they're 6 points clear of the bottom 3 with a much better goal difference, and the game against Plymouth to come the following Tuesday. You know, there's a big opportunity there for City to now finally get some momentum in their season and start to pull away from trouble. But if they lose at Cardiff, it'll all come crashing down again, and we'll be almost back to square one. And not to say this result will count for nothing, but it will feel like a real kick in the you-know-what, a bit like we felt at Bramall Lane. But let's be positive. You know, they were brilliant today. They worked tirelessly from back to front. I thought the back four, Charlie Hughes back in the team today, was exceptional. I thought Alfie Jones looked far more comfortable. Sean McLaughlin, you can't not mention Sean, you know, up against a really good Championship winger, dealt with his task really, really well. He made a vital block, actually a vital block in the first couple of minutes when Sunderland were getting in once or twice, and also a really important clearance header. So Sean was great. Louis Coyle was good. Obviously had a bit of stick. He's been getting a bit of stick for that video, which for me, not even a talking point. You know, you moan. People moan if the players don't show any passion, then they show a bit of passion, and the people moan. So, you know, I wrote a piece in the week about Louis that I think we'd all agree, and probably Louis above, you know, Louis more than anybody else, and he doesn't need me to tell him, would probably admit to not having his greatest season. The fact that Hull City are where they are suggests that there's been a lot of them that haven't had a great season. But you know, he's the sort of character, and he's a good player as well. Let's not shy away from it. Louis Coyle is a very good footballer at this level. He's had a poor season by his usual standards, but as I say, you don't get embroiled in a relegation battle if one player has a poor season. It's been a collective poor season, but results like this and performances like this, you know, are one way to make sure that you survive, you recover, and you have a chance of making it better next season, and that's all you can ask for. Couple of quick points before we sign off here at the Stadium of Light, or Stadium of Frustration as it was for much of the game. So Charlie Hughes came off in the second half. I think obviously it's his first game back after 10 games. You have to be really careful with hamstring problems. He wanted to come off. I think maybe he felt a little bit of tightness. Don't suspect, from speaking to the manager, there's no issue, there's no concern there. It was merely a precaution. Louis Barry came off. Interesting, that one, because I think it was Trey Hume. He tried to take it past inside the Sunderland penalty box. He sort of bundled into Trey Hume, who went down, gave a free kick away, and you kind of at the moment thinking that's just a daft free kick to give away, because the defender's going back to his goal. You know, Barry's trying to go round him. You don't need to foul him, make him play it out or something. But he fouled him, but he came off worse. He was down for a bit, he got back up, he went down again. The Sunderland fans were getting more and more frustrated because they felt that City players were going down every time they could, and eventually had some treatment. He looked really upset on the side. I mean, I've got to say, we're up in the upper tier, the back row of the upper tier here. We've got no televisions or anything, so you kind of, all you can see is basically the view that the away fans had on the back row is what we had, but we were obviously above the halfway line. So I couldn't see his facial expressions, but he didn't look great. From what I've been told, there was an element of real concern about his knee when he came off. He was helped off by the club's medical staff, but the feeling at this stage is it's not as serious as potentially they all thought when he came off and he was helped down the tunnel, as I say, by the club's medical people. So fingers crossed, it's just an impact injury. He's hurt himself, but it's not anything severe. It's not another ligament injury, given the fact that we've lost Liam Miller and Mohamed Baloumi. Just quickly on that, by the way, given there's no game next week, we are hoping to speak to Liam Miller and do an interview with Liam on how he is, find out how he is, because he's a wonderful guy. I love him to pieces, and how he's recovering and where he's at in his recovery. We saw Mohamed Baloumi is still out in Dubai. He's hoping to be back, to come back to Hull before the end of the season to continue his rehab. Of course, he's not going to be available before the end of the season, but having him back in the city around the club, a bit like Liam Miller has been for the last few months, will be important. So anyway, that's a side issue. So fingers crossed the prognosis on Barry isn't severe, and that he's, ideally he's okay for Tuesday night. We'll have to wait and see on that, and when we know any more, of course we will let you know. But yeah, I can't. Just let me check who that was. Stanley, Matazo was. Yeah, he was brilliant. I think. Am I right in thinking he got man of the match on Sky? But yeah, he was class today. But I thought midfield, very often this season, City have lost games because they've lost the battle in midfield. Well, today they didn't lose the battle in midfield. I thought Matazo, Alzate again, and Crooks were very good. I thought, as I say, Gowhart was great in his working. Lincoln did what he needed. Shaky start when he came on, but let's be fair to Lincoln. This is his debut. He's not played in England. He's not played in the Championship. To come on when you're 1-0 up away from home against a team that have scored 50 goals and have won 10 of 16 at home and haven't lost in the league, that isn't an easy introduction to Championship football, particularly when your team's at the bottom end of the table. So I thought after a dodgy start, a bit of a nervy start, he recovered. But look, it's really hard on a day like today to pick out too many individuals because you don't come here and win a game like that without a collective performance. And yes, there was some very good individual displays defensively, through midfield, and as I say, up front in terms of the work they did. But it's a collective, and the people that came off the bench made a difference. João Pedro, continued the press. Obviously, we saw Regan come on, Lincoln, as I say. So John Egan did really well when he came on for Charlie Hughes. It needs to be a collective, and if they're going to get out of this hole, it can't be individuals. It is going to be a collective, and you have to give them credit. And that's 4 points. It's funny, isn't it, how football can swing so quickly, because suddenly you've got 4 points from Norwich and Sunderland. I think pre-Norwich, if you'd have given the fact you've just lost to Stoke, if you'd have offered most Hull City fans 4 points from Norwich and Sunderland in their predicament, perhaps at any stage of the season, wherever you are, you'd probably take it. So I think, but as I say, and we all know this, we're not, you don't have to be a football expert to note that it's all about what happens on Tuesday. And I think that's we'll know a lot more, won't we? We'll know a lot more about the character of this team. Fantastic character today, can't fault any of them. But it's about going now down to South Wales, long trip. If you've not got your tickets yet, do get them, because you get free coach travel if you're lucky enough to be able to travel from the stadium. Yes, it's a heck of a long way, 4 or 5 hours from East Yorkshire down to South Wales. But the fans were brilliant today. 1,800, just over 1,800 of them. Not an easy trip, a long trip. Awful seats, stuck up in the gods. And just before I go, they were talking about the atmosphere down in the press room, about how the atmosphere here is really poor and what they're trying to do to get the atmosphere. I genuinely believe Swansea have just gone 3-0 up over Blackburn. Crikey. I genuinely believe in stadiums like this, when you stick the away fans up in the gods, it kills the atmosphere. And yeah, I know why clubs do it, because they want to try and minimise the impact of away fans on the team. And we've seen it so many times at the MKM Stadium, how vital having away fans can in that corner behind the goal particularly can be. But when you stick them up in the goal, atmospheres are generated by home fans and away fans going at each other, and that banter you get. when you stick them up, you can see there, somewhere right up there, look, right behind me, up, that's where the away fans go, right up there. It just doesn't create an atmosphere, it kills the atmosphere. And I remember coming to the stadium like many years ago when I followed Forest up and down the country, you know, and very few times I came here and saw wins. You know, I can remember a freezing cold Tuesday night, that proverbial freezing cold Tuesday night, and we were behind in the lower tier behind the goal, and it didn't make any impact that night because I think Forest lost 3-0. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, you stick the fans up in the gods, and it just kills the atmosphere. Newcastle do it as well, and they stick them. You know, they're almost on the moon, and then they wonder in this here. Oh, the atmosphere is rubbish. It's really flat. Yeah, but the away fans up in the gods don't. They can sing, and the fans were brilliant today. Their backing was incredible, but it doesn't help the overall atmosphere. And I think clubs need to think. You know, Sunderland need to think about how they can incorporate the away fans in the lower bowl. I mean, it's big enough, Christ. Find the away fans in the lower bowl and bring back your atmosphere, because it was really poor. To say there was 44,000 people here, I know City scored early, and that can naturally impact the home team's performance. It can impact the home atmosphere. But this team are fourth in the league. Yes, they lost at Leeds, and people will be a bit flat, but they're fourth in the table. You know, in the Championship, after being in League One for God knows how long, you'd think they'd be a bit more buoyant. But it was really flat, and I just, like I say, I think part of that is because the away fans are so far out. They may as well not be in the ground. They're so far away. It just doesn't. It's not conducive to a raucous atmosphere. And anyway, that's not our problem. That's their problem. Hopefully, when we get back to the MKM Stadium, we'll be 3 points better off after Tuesday night, and we can look forward to a really vibrant home atmosphere against a Plymouth side that will have travelled up to Manchester, hopefully got pasted, and travel back and then come up tired and fed up, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Anyway, that's it from here at the Stadium of Light. If you've been up at on Wearside today, I'm sure you've had a good day. Hopefully, Lee, you as well, you have a safe trip back to East Yorkshire. If you are heading down to Cardiff on Tuesday night, God bless, what a journey that is. Fair, absolute credit to you going down there on the Tuesday night. But you'll go down there, I'm sure, in good spirits, because, of course, City have won here today, have won 4 out of 5 away from home, and could take a huge step forwards towards getting Championship safety with victory down in South Wales. So that's it from here at the MKM Stadium. We'll be back with you, of course, on Monday. We'll have the 1904 Club podcast. We'll have plenty of preview from Ruben Sayers ahead of that trip to Cardiff. And we'll see you at some point on Tuesday evening. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good weekend.